There's a tray sitting on the floor by the open window right now. It's not plugged in. It has no moving parts, no refrigerant, no compressor. The thermometer on the wall dropped 7 degrees Fahrenheit in 2 hours. That's coming from this. A baking tray, filled with damp charcoal. $7. 15 minutes to build. I'm not going to tell you this is some new invention. It isn't. Persian architects were engineering this into their civic buildings 3,000 years ago. The buildings are still standing. The knowledge almost didn't make it. You already know this. You've felt it your whole life and never connected the dots. That's why stepping out of a swimming pool on a 90-degree day makes you instantly cold, even though the air temperature hasn't changed. That's why a wet towel on your neck works better than a dry one. That's why you crack a car window on a hot day and come back to a cooler interior even when the sun has been beating down on it. Evaporation pulls heat from whatever surface it leaves. That's your body's entire cooling system. That's the physics behind what you're about to build. Here's what's actually happening when damp charcoal sits in moving air. A single gram of activated charcoal has a surface area of between 500 and 1,500 square meters. That's not a typo. 1 gram. The surface area of a small apartment in a piece of material the size of your thumbnail. All of those microscopic pores hold water. When warm, dry air moves across a surface that wet, evaporation happens on an enormous scale relative to the material size. The air moving through loses energy to the phase change. It comes out the other side cooler and cleaner, because activated charcoal simultaneously absorbs volatile organic compounds, odors, airborne bacteria, and mold spores. The same material water filter manufacturers put in their products. The same material used in air purifiers retailing for $200 to $400, doing its job passively, continuously, for free, as long as you keep it damp. 1 tray, cooling the air, filtering the air, removing odors from the air, simultaneously, for $7. Persian architects were building wind towers called badgers as far back as 1000 BCE. A badger is a tall shaft built into a building with openings at the top to catch prevailing winds and channel them downward into the rooms below. At the base of the shaft, Persian builders placed wet charcoal and saturated clay pots. The air was forced through the damp material before entering the room, cooling it by 4 to 6 degrees Celsius through evaporation before it ever touched a person. The most famous surviving badger is in Yazd, Iran, a city that sits in one of the driest deserts on Earth and has been continuously inhabited for over 7,000 years. Summer temperatures in Yazd regularly exceed 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Buildings with badgers, documented by architectural researchers from the University of New South Wales, maintained interior temperatures consistently 8 to 12 degrees Celsius lower than outside air during peak afternoon heat. No electricity, no refrigerant, wet charcoal and airflow. They figured this out 3,000 years ago. We surrounded ourselves with air conditioners and forgot. The reason nobody sells you this is straightforward. The global air conditioning market generates over $130 billion annually. A $7 tray of charcoal that drops room temperature by 7 degrees is not something that industry has any incentive to put in front of you. You can't sell someone a subscription to a wet tray. You can't send a monthly bill for evaporation. So the knowledge sat quietly on a shelf and gathered dust while the utility bill climbed every summer. Last summer, during a heat wave, fan running all night, pushing the same hot air from one corner to the other, not sleeping, not functioning, I came across this. 24 hours later, I had it built. The thermometer dropped 4 degrees Celsius. In 2 hours. I sat there staring at a baking tray filled with wet charcoal that I bought at a pet store for $7 and thought about every summer I had spent paying an electricity company to do something a Persian architect solved for free 3,000 years ago. Here's exactly what you need. Activated charcoal, the kind sold for aquarium filters. Loose black granules in a bag available at any pet store or on Amazon. A 500-gram bag costs $5 to $8. Do not use barbecue charcoal briquettes. That's a completely different material, not porous in the same way. won't produce the same result. Activated charcoal only. A shallow tray or container, a baking pan, a plastic storage tray, anything that holds charcoal in a layer and allows air to move across it. Water. Pour it over the charcoal until the granules are fully saturated. Let it absorb for 5 minutes. Then drain any standing water. You want the charcoal wet, not sitting in puddles. Saturate like a wrung-out sponge. That's it. $7. 15 minutes. Now here's the part most people get wrong, and it's the reason most people try this once and think it doesn't work. Placement. A damp charcoal tray sitting on a table in the middle of a room does almost nothing. The moist air just rises and mixes without cooling the space you're in. Place the tray on the floor near the air intake, the window or door where outside air enters the room, so all incoming air passes across the charcoal before it reaches you. That's the difference between a curiosity and a system. Re-wet the charcoal every morning. It will dry out overnight as evaporation continues. 30 seconds with a cup of water and it's back to work. But here's the version that changes everything for anyone with animals, a barn, or an outbuilding. And most people who build this never think of it. Build a simple frame from scrap wood, a shallow box open on 2 sides. Fill it with activated charcoal 6 to 8 centimeters deep. Mount it in the ventilation opening of a chicken coop, hutch, barn, or shed, the gap where air enters. Every breath of wind coming in passes through the charcoal. The air that reaches your animals is cooler, cleaner, and dramatically lower in ammonia and odor. Heat stress in poultry begins around 86 degrees Fahrenheit and becomes fatal above 100. Anything that drops incoming air temperature meaningfully matters. This does. For $7. One honest note, because it always belongs here. Evaporative cooling works best when humidity is below about 50%. In dry climates, the American Southwest, Texas, Nevada, the Mediterranean, the performance is dramatic and consistent. In humid climates, the Gulf Coast, the Southeast, anywhere that sees muggy summers, the temperature drop will be closer to 2 to 3 degrees Celsius rather than 6 to 8. Still useful. You'll still get the full air filtration benefit regardless of humidity. Just set expectations accordingly. The average American household spends $275 running an air conditioner every single summer. Over 20 years, that's $5,500 to cool the same rooms that Persian architects cooled for free using wet charcoal and airflow. The buildings they cooled are still standing in Yazd and still studied by architectural researchers as examples of passive climate engineering. The charcoal they used costs $7 at a pet store. Somewhere in the last 100 years, as the hardware store filled up with branded cooling equipment, this knowledge stopped being passed down. The old knowledge just quietly sat on a shelf and gathered dust. $7. 15 minutes. And it's back in your hands. I don't know what brought you here. Maybe it's the heat wave that's been in the forecast all week. Maybe it's the electricity bill that keeps climbing every summer. Maybe it's the barn or the kennel or the camper van that gets uninhabitable in July. Maybe you just like knowing what Persian architects knew 3,000 years ago and ended up here at midnight following a question you couldn't stop. It doesn't matter. The charcoal works either way. Now you know how. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.